guys, this will be me narrating my midterm assignment. My name is Pedro. I don't know how to work PowerPoint or any slides really too good, so I don't know how to put narration into the video. So therefore I'm just going to record me going through the videos or through the slides and just explain each side accordingly to how I see it. So the first one is so the discussion I'm doing is discussion number 2, where basically said talk about the artwork, give the context of it, and what are your thoughts on it. So the art piece is the Finai of linguistics staff from Ghana. It is this relic right here. The context. So right here we can see what the art piece is. It's a little sculpture carved out of wood and engraved in a gold foil. Here we can see a bigger one. It was carved out of wood and it was engraved in gold. For what we can see is that was made out of gold, which made it abundant, and only the high-ranking members of society or ruler were the ones who carried this. Right here we can see who were the people that carried it. Obviously these are the kids right here, and only the people in the back with the relics are obviously people that are either rulers or they have a high rank in that society that they're living in. The form and aesthetics is figurative and represents the human form like other African sculptures around that time. It was carved out by wood or stone and were relatively small as they were transported from one place to another frequently. So from what I learned is that the African sculptures were relatively small, as most of these people were hunter-gatherers, so they had to leave from one place to another, so they couldn't really make a big art piece to carry around, because they had to be pretty practical and they had to move it from one place to another quickly in many cases. So right here we can see this is a similar sculpture, but this is from another place of Africa. It's some of the we can see here that the head in most African sculptures is kind of exaggerated, and then some parts of the body are exaggerated depending on if it's a man or a woman. But this is a sculpture that I chose. It relatively represents the human form pretty good. It's probably we can see here that he has some sort of things in his head. Probably says that he's a high-ranking member of society. He's holding some sort of ball. To me, it looks like a football. Football didn't exist back then, so it could be something else that holds some sort of importance to them. And he was obviously standing in some sort of chair. And these people didn't really sit down too much, so the fact that he was sitting down is, meant that he didn't have to work like the other people. So another question that was in the discussion post is what I see when I look at the sculpture. Let's go into the what I see is how abundant gold was in their society, as these societies were rich. What I personally see when answering this question is how the Western world has robbed Africa of its riches. This is just one of the few art pieces that have been conserved. However, many more of the art pieces were stolen from Africa and taken to museums, or since most of these items were encrusted in gold or diamonds, many of these items were dismantled and used to sell for someone that actually wanted gold or diamonds. What we can see basically is that Africa has been robbed for millions of years, from not millions of years, I can say for thousands of years, by the Western world. Once the Western world got ships and they were able to conquer different countries, Africa was one of these countries. That Africa is actually a continent, so I'm speaking for many of the countries within Africa. Many of these countries were conquered by these Western powers, and they would rob by the riches, and not only were they robbed by the riches, but they were enslaved by their conquerors. So in many cases, these African countries were, in many cases, I could say they kind of fell back in the progression, so they couldn't progress as fast as the other Western countries. So I could say they're far behind other Western countries because not until recently, was many of these African states independent. Not until the World War I, World War II, did these African nations get their sovereignty and got their independence. So they're kind of behind. A lot of these art pieces were brought from them. We could see in this next slide is a quote by Nelson Mandela, the South African president. Poverty is not an accident like slavery and apartheid. It is man-made and can be removed by the actions of human beings. It's not as simple as from one day to another, changing this. It's something that time has to progress, and time has to give time for people to progress, and for humans know what actions they're doing that are wrong, and find solutions as to how these people could solve these issues. Um, what has dictated what art is and what makes it beautiful in the past 100 years have been the Western world. The Western world has suppressed and antagonized these people by the color of their skin. Therefore, what I'm trying to get to is that Africa is beautiful continent full of beautiful landscapes and vast resources. There might have been art pieces more beautiful than this one right here. However, since they are not the ones writing the history books, we may not know how many more of these art pieces or how many more riches they might have had that are hidden from our history books, because we got to understand that these conquerors and these people that wrote our and enslaved these people are the same people that wrote our history books. So they're not going to say you know everything there is to be said from their perspective. From what I'm saying is from these people's perspective. We're going to hear a different perspective from these people, so perhaps these people have something else to say other than what the Western world has to say, and that's the Western world that we live in, and the Western world that has dictated basically what art is, and what art is beautiful, what art is nice, what art is ugly. However, due to the diversity that now exists in our society, we're kind of able to see different perspectives of art, and there's enough people in the world for each person to have their own perspective of art, and them having their own appreciation of what art is, and their own appreciation of what is beautiful and what is not, instead of just one perspective how it was in the ancient world. And that's the end of my post.